Good morning. We got to talk about the coronavirus, but first, I need some tea. The coronavirus has been top of mind for me for the past week. I'm getting a lot of messages and comments on the latest video from you guys asking if I'm okay. And the answer is yes, I'm okay. But I'm really worried for a lot of my friends back in China. People that you've seen in my videos, people that you haven't, places you've seen in my videos, they're all really affected by this and people are really scared. And I have some anecdotes and info from them that hasn't gotten shared in the public, in the mainstream media, and a little bit of context about sort of what's going on right now. And so I wanted to share that with you. I also, if like me, you're worried about getting sick, as I imagine a lot of you are, I have something concrete that you can do today, right now, that's not like cough into your shoulder or wash your hands or wear a face mask. It's something more concrete and direct that will keep you healthy and safe. So first off, I want to just say that I don't want this to get too political. I know that others have been really very aggressive about talking about the failures of the Chinese government and how terrible Chinese people are. And I'm not going to do that. Politics is not the focus of this channel. Technology and manufacturing and exploring cool places is. But really the biggest reason, honestly, is that I already think there's enough hatred in the world and that I don't think we need any more rhetoric or commentary to drive people further apart. I'm really excited, and it's one of my biggest focuses on Strange Parts, to bring people closer together. So I hope you'll understand that and respect that. And sort of within that framework, within those boundaries, I'm going to try and discuss as much as I can and be as open as I can about where I'm at with this and what I'm struggling with and what I'm thinking about and what I know that you might not yet. So this obviously isn't a typical video. I think the best place to start is by talking about Spring Festival, which is the Chinese New Year, is often called in the US. And I think that sort of contextualizes a lot of why this right now is a particularly bad time, but there's some good parts of it. It's a unique time of year for this all to be happening. So Chinese New Year is the big holiday in China. Spring Festival is the big holiday. And if you're an American, the best way to conceptualize that is it's like Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's all rolled into one holiday. So everyone wants to be home with their families, cooking and eating lots of food. That's a huge part of the holiday. Most people, this is the one holiday they take a year to go back to their hometowns. And they'll spend 2 to 3 weeks usually. In Shenzhen, which is 17 million people, 85% of those leave for several weeks for Chinese New Year. So it's a huge migration. The good news is that nobody's at work right now. The markets are closed in Shenzhen, the electronics markets. It's not a time where a lot of people are out and about anyway. The bad news is the entire country is traveling. This is the largest modern human migration in the world. And I don't quite know the numbers on how many people are moving, but it's a lot. All of the trains get booked, all of the planes get booked, people drive, buses, like every possible way of getting around the country is booked up. Look at my notes again. A lot to say. So I think we can debate whether it was quick enough, and I think maybe there's some valid criticism to make there. But the reality is right now, as of checking yesterday, I think, the government is quarantining 30 million people in a number of cities. And, that started in Wuhan, where the virus started, which is 11 million people. It may be more now. That's a big, huge deal. According to the World Health Organization representative for China, that's never been done before. And we don't even really know whether it's going to be effective. But to put that in context, imagine quarantining all of New York City. That means no flights in and out, no buses in and out, no trains in and out, but also shutting down the subway and the buses and the taxis and asking everybody to stay in their apartments. And then to compound that, imagine doing that right before Christmas, right when everybody was going to go home and be with their families, or if it helps, right before Thanksgiving. It's pretty big and it's pretty hard, and it's really pretty scary if you're one of the people who's stuck in your apartment in New York City wondering if you're going to get sick. I can only imagine what that would be like trying to do that in the US. I imagine people would go ballistic. And I'm not trying to sing too many praises here, but it's a pretty big thing. And as part of that, it actually makes me a little bit more afraid, because I worry that if they're taking that big drastic steps, that at least the numbers at the time when they decided to do that were much higher than what's being reported. And based on everything I've seen and read and experienced in China, that's almost undoubtedly true. The numbers are almost undoubtedly a lot bigger than what we've seen. So, the next thing that I've heard, which I think has gotten a little bit more widespread coverage now, is that the government is going to extend the Spring Festival holiday until February 10th. And it's not immediately clear what all that entails, but one of the things that I know through friends in the markets is that the Huaqiangbei electronics markets in Shenzhen will stay closed until February 10th. They were going to open much sooner. And the government has said, because of the virus, we don't want people coming to the markets. I think there's hundreds of thousands of people that pass through there every day. I meant to look that up. It's a lot. And obviously that's, everybody's in tight proximity to each other. That's the perfect place for something like this to spread. And so they're forbidding anybody from opening their stalls in the markets. They're not going to open the buildings, and they're only going to allow in people with IDs who need to get inventory and stock out of their booths to ship and things like that. So the other piece of relevant hacker news is that DEF CON China is canceled. Now, I'm laughing because DEF CON is canceled is a notorious DEF CON joke. People go around saying either, usually right before DEF CON is canceled. DEF CON is never canceled. This time, DEF CON is actually canceled, which is also part of the joke. That is normally part of the joke. It's like, no, really, this time DEF CON is actually canceled. People try and convince you that it's actually canceled. But this time, really, DEF CON China is canceled. Well, it's put on a 6-month hold. And the DEF CON folks said in their post online that actually this is because of the government putting a hold on all events of this type for the next 6 months. And I've looked for other info about that, and I haven't been able to find anything yet. So at a bit larger scale, Hong Kong has severely restricted its border with the mainland. So Hong Kong obviously bumps up right against Shenzhen. They're almost the same city. Their subways connect. And Hong Kong has decided to close 6 out of their 14 land borders. They've suspended all water ferry service between the two cities, or between mainland and Hong Kong. And they're cutting the flights from mainland to Hong Kong in half. That's the latest info that I have. That might be more extreme now. That's as of a day or two ago. So next, I think I want to tell you a little bit about how this affects me and what I'm doing in response, and in return, what you can do in response to stay healthy. So where I'm at personally is that I've actually been in the US since early December, and I intend to stay here. I was planning a trip to Asia next week probably, and I have canceled that. It was not to China, but it was a nearby Asian country. And I was planning on spending a month there, and I don't feel like that's a safe thing to do right now. And so I'm just going to stay put. I'm going to stay in the US. I'll probably travel a bit in the US. I have already pre-recorded several videos. And so the videos that have come out since Christmas were all recorded before Christmas. When I was in China, obviously the video when we went to the industrial factory that came out last weekend, that was recorded back in December. And I have one or two more that will come out in the coming weeks that we're still working on editing. In terms of my friends, nobody that I know is sick, which is good. I'm obviously very worried about them. Pretty much all of the expats that I know have gotten out by now. Some bought the first flight at the first news of this. Others waited a little longer. Obviously, everybody's being super careful about quarantining themselves, but there's reason to think that they weren't exposed. Shenzhen has a few cases, but it's not a huge pandemic there yet. And a lot of people got out before there were any cases in Shenzhen. The Chinese folks that I know, a lot have gone back home. Some have traveled overseas. Everybody's really scared. They're getting lots of info from the government, and I'm getting info via WeChat for expats in Shenzhen, via various WeChat groups that I'm in. And the info seems pretty good. It's kind of what we're hearing in the West, right? Wear a mask, wash your hands, don't go out if you don't have to. Make sure that you're cooking all food really well. Stay indoors, hunker down. So that seems really good. They're getting they're getting the same infected and death toll numbers that we're getting, and it's very prominent. So personally speaking, for my own personal travel, I am fairly concerned that we are not very good at screening for this virus yet. There have been a few cases of asymptomatic folks that were shedding the virus, that were transmitting the virus, and it's got a long incubation period. And so I'm concerned that the notion of just taking people's temperature at airports is not going to be enough to prevent the spread. So I flew through SFO, San Francisco Airport, this past Sunday, and I chose to wear a mask. And I chose to wear a mask because I figured it was better safe than sorry, and SFO is one of the major hubs for receiving flights from China. And so if you can bump into someone who's infected, that might be a fairly reasonable place to do that. And figured it's better to look like an idiot than it is to get sick. And so I know that probably seems really extreme, but I figured it's better safe than sorry. But I think you might be asking, like me right now, what else can I do to ensure that I and the others around me that I love don't die from a deadly and highly infectious disease? And obviously we really want a vaccine that's at least months out. So that's not an option. But in the meantime, there is a virus that is far more infectious than corona that we already have a vaccine for that you might not actually be immune to. And I say that from recent personal experience. So that virus is the measles. I recently found out that I am not in fact immune to the measles, much to my surprise, because I had all my shots as a kid. And I found out in the past few weeks that I don't have a measles immunity right now. And I fixed that, but I want to tell you more of what happened. So just after Christmas, I went to the travel clinic in Los Angeles to get all of my vaccines updated for a bunch of upcoming travel that I had planned for this coming year. And this was before knowing anything about the coronavirus. So I got a whole bunch of stuff. I got 6 shots. As part of that, I found out that adults actually can get a booster for measles, and that it's recommended if you're in areas that had an active outbreak or you're traveling to areas that have measles. Because I was getting all the other shots, I couldn't actually get the measles vaccine. You can't get too many live vaccines at once or your body just doesn't really process it and doesn't build an immunity. And so instead, I chose to just get my measles immunity checked, which is called a Measles Titer. It's basically to check the antibodies in your system to see if you have immunity. And much to my surprise, I didn't, which frankly scares the crap out of me. Measles is not a good thing. It's highly, highly contagious. 95% of people who aren't vaccinated who are exposed to it get it. The crazy thing is that in 2000, measles was declared eradicated in the US. And now, because of the freaking anti-vaxxers, it's back. So this is a graph of the cases in the US since 2016, and obviously it's growing like wildfire. And the crazy part, the really crazy part, is that actually in the US, we are behind China in percentage of the population that is vaccinated against measles. In the US, only 91% of folks have their measles vaccine. And in China, it's 99%. So we have some catching up to do. Obviously, if you're an anti-vaxxer who doesn't believe in getting vaccines, I have nothing to say to you that is gonna change your mind, and you should just get out now. And I'm serious. I'm directing this at you, the reasonable adult who believes in science and vaccines. There is a chance, like me, that you've had all of your vaccines for measles, and for whatever reason, your body just forgot. And because measles is back now, we all should get checked. And so there's two things that you can do. The first is you can go get a titer, like me. It's a simple blood draw. You get back in a couple days whether you've got immunity or not. Or you can go get your adult booster, which is what I did last week. And yeah, it's a shot in the arm, not a big deal. So what I want to encourage you to do is to go out today and get either your titer checked or get your adult booster. And the cool part is that you can actually do this, if you're in the US, you can actually do this at your local CVS. So not every CVS, but a lot of CVSs have a thing called a minute clinic, which is like a little urgent care clinic that you can go into. And they can do both the titer to check your immunity, and they can give you the booster shot. You can choose which one you want to do. And it's really simple. You just make an appointment online, walk in, walk out, boom, done. Costs a little bit of money. It's like, I think the titer is like about $99, and the booster shot's about, I think it's $135. So it does cost a little bit of money, but you know, the reality is, like, if you want to stay healthy, it's a pretty small step to take. I don't know about the insurance situation. My insurance situation is complicated because I travel so much. I just paid for it out of pocket. It's part of my travel expenses. If you're worried about coronavirus right now, like I am, I would encourage you to channel that energy into going and getting a vaccine or getting your immunizations checked for a virus that we already know is super contagious. And we already know is spreading in the US. That's about all I have to say right now. I did want to point you at some other places you could get info about what's going on in China with regards to the coronavirus. They're folks that I have followed for a while and really enjoy. And they're places that they're not mainstream media outlets. They're people you might not know about. They're a little bit, China insiders. And so I'm going to link to some of them down in the description. You can go check that out. A few of them are What's on Weibo, which is an amazing website that tries to explain in English what is trending on Weibo, which is like Chinese Twitter. And there's some good discussion of what conversations are happening around coronavirus right now. And it's really pretty amazing. There are huge discussions happening there. They're some of the largest that have ever happened on Weibo about coronavirus and where people's sentiments lie. Specifically with regards to wildlife trade. And I meant to talk about this earlier, but there's really a strong public lashback about like people who do things like eat bats. I think there's a perception in the Western news that it's super, super common to eat bats in China. It's not. It's not. I've never even heard of it. I've never seen bats for sale in the markets. Like it is a thing apparently, but it's not a common thing. Certainly not in Shenzhen. I asked some folks, some Chinese friends, whether they knew anybody who eats bats, and they said no. Like, those people are nuts, they're stupid, like, that's, yeah, not a common thing. Other folks that are posting, there are a couple smaller vloggers in Shenzhen right now that are expats that are talking about what it's like to be there, and you know, going to the market and going grocery shopping and like trying to sort of figure out how to navigate this. I'll link to them down in the description. I just want to kind of provide some other resources that I think are just providing sort of good anecdotal, like, what is it like to be on the ground right now in China, sort of info. So I think that helps balance a little bit of the media hype. I hope you'll join me in that and just thinking through what would it be like if you were there right now. You know, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of really racist commentary, and there's a lot of fairly racist views in the news, and that obviously makes me really sad. I think I have a lot of good friends in China, and this is a special time of the year for them, and it's a pretty horrible, scary situation. And my heart goes out to them, and I really, really hope that we're all collectively as a planet able to get this virus under control. I think we will. I think a lot more people are going to get sick before it gets better, unfortunately. And I just hope that all the folks that I know and all of their loved ones stay healthy through this. So I think that about does it for now. I'm going to go try not to stress out about this and just catch up with some friends. And I'll see you again soon. We have another video in the works we're editing now, visiting a factory in Shenzhen that's quite cool and really different from anything we've visited before. And so I hope you'll enjoy it. I really enjoyed getting to see it and getting to try out a couple really cool things that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. So that probably will be coming out probably next weekend, maybe the weekend after. We'll see how things stand. But obviously that video was recorded in December. So I hope everybody watching this is healthy, and yeah, keep your head on your shoulders, and I'll see you again soon.